Hey, it's Jessie from Squeegee Ink and welcome back to Printer's Corner. Printer's Corner is where I answer 3 of the questions you've given me over social media and I answer those in a little bit more depth. Make sure you stick around to the end of this episode so you can see the results from this week's community poll. In today's episode we'll be covering heat press platens, what transfers we use and also how we relabel our garments. If you've got a question that you'd like answered like this, just simply use hashtag Printer's Corner in any of the comments, in any of our videos on social media, and I'll be sure to pick those up and answer those in a future episode. Our first question is by Erica, and they said, where do you get your heat press platens? Actually, they said plates, but we call them platens. They're basically just these bits at the bottom of your heat press and they come in different sizes for different applications. We get ours from Target Transfers, which is the same place where we get the transfers, the presses and all the accessories and platens. We normally use 2 most frequently. We use the little one for our neck labels and the big one if we're doing anything with t-shirts or canvas bags and that type of thing. Actually, Erica, you might find it a bit more useful to watch one of the very specific videos we did about heat presses and the different platens, and that's on YouTube and it's called The Best Heat Presses for T-Shirts and Printing Studios. We take over Target Transfers showroom. It was actually a really good day out. We went to the Target Transfers factory or warehouse and we went and tested every single heat press there and talked about why and when you'd use that press and the kind of ones that you might want to use in your studio. If you are going to purchase anything from Target Transfers, we've also worked out a discount for all our viewers, which is Squeegee, all in caps, and you can enter that for transfers and presses and pretty much anything on their website. So that should get you some money off as well. Our second question is from Simon, and they asked, what kind of transfer paper do you use? Can you give me the reference, please? The transfers that we typically use for like neck labels and actually quite a few different applications are normally the ultra color transfers, and we get those from Target Transfers using the Squeegee discount code, and they're just a really versatile transfer and we're using those entirely for all our neck labels now. We don't even print directly onto our own brand t-shirts anymore. We just snip off a few of the transfers and apply those as and when we need. If you want more detail about those transfers and how we use them in the studio, we made a specific YouTube video about them, and that is called Why a Die-Hard Screen Printer Chooses to Use Ultra Color Transfers for Specific Garment Printing. And hopefully you'll find that really useful and it might make you contemplate using that for your own brand as well. And our third question is from Crystal, and they said, how do you take the old name brand logo off? My answer to that is if you are printing commercially for other people, you should be buying your t-shirts wholesale and actually just picking the brand of t-shirt that's easiest to print for you and is making your life a little bit easier. So for example, for our own brand, we use Stanley Stella blank garments, and that's because we like the garments, but it's also because they've thought about it and they don't have their own brand label in there. They've just got a little side label to the side which we keep in, and then there's a little area where we can just put our own brand on. So we're not messing around with de-tagging all these kind of shirts. The other thing to look out for if they do have a tag is to make sure that it's a tearaway label. That just means it's kind of made of like a papery kind of substance. You can just quickly take out the tag, but just be careful that you're not pulling the tag off and leaving a little hole in the garment. So just buy wholesale from a big wholesaler in the UK, for example, is somebody like Rallowise, and they hold all the different brands that commercial screen printers are using. So to round up this week's question, which is about how to rebrand t-shirts with your own inside neck label, the first thing is to use wholesale garments, and the second one is to use ultra color transfers in the neck label, and that's a much easier way of doing it.
Community poll.
Now for this week's community poll. So if you want to cast your vote in future polls, Don't forget to go to our YouTube channel, and under the community tab you can see all the different polls, and then I collate all the answers and I reveal them at the end of a Printer's Corner. This week's community poll was: a customer wants some red polyester sports shirts screen printed with white ink. And the most popular answer by far, with 81% of all the votes, was easy, we got this. And that's really interesting because a lot of screen printers, I thought, were actually quite scared of printing white ink onto red sports garments, and that's because of like dye migration and the ink changing colour with the dye, and it's a little bit of a difficult process. But if you've got it under control, that's great. And then Target Transfers actually wrote a little comment under this one, which was use sublet blocker transfers all the way, and then little hands emojis. And that's because often on sports garments it is a little bit tricky to control the ink on the garment, and you might get dye migration and issues, whereas if you use sublet blocker, it blocks the ink from getting into the image area of your print. So it could be a good little side step if you've got a complicated image on some sports garments. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Printer's Corner, and don't forget to load me up with more questions using hashtag Printer's Corner, and check out next week's community poll and cast your vote.